I'm James Rosone.
And I'm Miranda Watson. We're the husband and wife writing team that created the military thriller Monroe Doctrine series and the military sci-fi series The Rise of the Republic.
We have some additional content we'd like to share with you guys today, and we hope you'll find it informative and entertaining. We're planning to create more videos similar to this in the future.
As always, please like, share, and subscribe. Now let's get started.
Chapter 55. 2nd Marine Division. 26th May, 1991. Assembly Area, Red. 1. Saudi Arabia. The night sky was illuminated by the burning oil wells in the Gudair North oil field. The air was heavy with the odor of hydrogen sulfide fumes coming off the wellheads. Everyone had been briefed earlier in the day by Lieutenant Colonel Howard Shores, a division staff officer, on the operation to mark and open 18 cuts in the berm, as it was called. The berm was as a 3 to 6 meter high berm along the Saudi-Kuwait border, about 1 to 5 miles from the actual border on the Saudi side. It had been built several years prior by a Japanese company. 9 cuts were to be made in front of the Tiger Brigade, which had been attached to the 2nd Marine once it arrived in country. The Tiger Brigade was the northwestern flank of the division, with the remaining cuts in front of the 6th Marine. As soon as the first cut was made in front of the Tiger Brigade, the 2nd Light Armored Infantry Battalion moved through and commenced to operate forward of the berm in this area as part of a deception plan. "Okay, here's what we got for this evening," Captain Wolfe, commander of B Company 2nd LAI Battalion, said, facing his platoon leaders. "We're going to mark 6 lanes through the Iraqi minefields. I'll go with 1st Platoon and provide overwatch while 2nd and 3rd Platoons mark the lanes. You all have used the mine detectors, so this is nothing new. Any questions?" he concluded. "Sir, how many lanes do we need to mark?" the 2nd Platoon leader asked. "I want each of you to mark 3 lanes. Once you've completed those, I'll come forward and mark the last 2 lanes myself. Any others?" Wolfe said, looking at each platoon leader. "Okay, we move out at 1800 hours. Lance Corporal Jameson didn't mind walking with the mine detector and listening for the telltale sound indicating something metallic was in the ground. He did mind that the Iraqi infantry was only 800 meters away while he was doing it. Fortunately, they were silhouetted in front of the burning oil wells. He was not. "Hold," Jameson said in almost a whisper. Walking beside him was Private Lewis from San Antonio, Texas, new to the Marines, Saudi Arabia, and combat. He was a replacement that had only arrived in country 2 weeks before. His job on this night was to push a flag into the ground next to any mines they found. Their flags were marking the right side of the lane. They had walked about 300 meters when Jameson took a knee. "I think we're through the minefield. I'm not getting any other readings," he said to Louis. "What are you stopping for?" A whisper came from behind them. They recognized the voice. "Sir, I'm not getting any more readings. I think we're through the field," Corporal Jameson stated to the platoon leader. "Okay then, let's sweep back to the berm and get the hell out of here," the platoon leader ordered, adding, "And be careful." "Sir, one of the problems we're going to have is the fact that our artillery batteries are too far back to range the Iraqi artillery batteries. When we launch the attack, they're going to be able to pound us, but we won't be able to hit their artillery with counter-battery fires," Colonel Palm, commander of the 10th Marines, explained. His brigade was an artillery brigade. "Sir, the Iraqis have about 500 guns that are within range of the breach points. Some of these are those South African guns that outrange our M198 155 mm howitzers, even if we use RAP rounds." "So what do you propose?" asked Brigadier General Sutton, the assistant division commander. "Sir, I think we should move the artillery forward of the berm and forward of the assault elements before the assault forces cross the berm. This will place the guns within range of the Iraqi guns and allow us to better support the attack. I know this violates all the schoolhouse doctrine, but tactically, I think it makes sense in this situation. The 2nd LAI Battalion is out there and can provide some security for us," Palm pointed out. General Sutton said nothing for a minute, just staring at the map. Finally, he said, "Do it. Coordinate with the Tiger Brigade and do it." The desert night sky had been clear except for the smoke from the burning oil well heads, which masked the setting sun to some extent. Iraqi positions along the first defense belt were backlit by the fires, but were about 7 clicks from the berm. As the night progressed, the Milky Way that everyone was used to watching disappeared behind the black smoke and clouds that moved into the area. By the early hours of the morning, a light rain began. "I don't want to hear any sniveling about the weather. If it ain't raining, then we ain't training," Gunny Sergeant Allen said, looking over his platoon of Devil Dog Marines of Alpha Company, 1st Battalion, 6th Marine Regiment. The most miserable of the young Marines were the replacements that had just arrived, and who were subjected to the usual treatment of being a newbie or cherries. Most Marines were quiet, lost in their personal thoughts about what was ahead of them. Old Marines thought about what needed to be done. Newbies thought about what was going to be done. Gunny Allen had been around the block enough to know of the concern in some, and the lack of camaraderie that the newbies were feeling. He thought for a moment and stood. As he did so, most of the eyes of the platoon followed him. After all, he was their father figure of sorts. "Gentlemen," he said, gaining the total attention of the platoon now in the darkness and drizzle. "This day is called the Feast of Crispian. He that outlives this day and comes safe home will stand a tiptoe when this day is named, and rouse him at the name of Crispian. He that shall see this day and live old age will yearly on the vigil feast his neighbors and say, 'Tomorrow is Saint Crispian.' Then will he strip his sleeve and show his scars and say, 'These wounds I had on Crispin's day.' Old men forget, yet all shall be forgot. But he'll remember with advantages what feats he did that day. Then shall our names, familiar in his mouth as household words, Harry the King, Bedford and Exeter, Warwick and Talbot, Salisbury and Gloucester, be in their flowing cups freshly remembered. This story shall the good man teach his son, and Crispin Crispian shall ne'er go by, from this day to the ending of the world, but we in it shall be remembered. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers, for he today that sheds his blood with me shall be my brother. Be he ne'er so vile, this day shall gentle his condition. And gentlemen in England, now abed, shall think themselves accursed, they were not here, and hold their manhoods cheap whiles any speaks that fought with us upon St. Crispin's day." There was silence in the platoon, but he could see the facial expressions changed. Old Marines now turned to the newbies and extended handshakes and exchanged names. A new bond was created in the platoon, as the new guys were suddenly welcomed with open arms by the veterans. "All right, let's saddle up. We have a job to do," Gunny Allen said, picking up his rucksack. The platoon followed suit as they headed for the line of departure and crossed at 530 hours. For the last hour, the sound of artillery booming was heard, and the sky was alive with multiple rockets from the M270 multiple launch rocket system, commonly referred to as MLORS, all pounding on the Iraqi artillery positions. Each launcher fired the M26 rocket, which contained 644 anti-personnel, anti-materiel grenades that were dispersed over the target and detonated upon impact. Each launcher could fire 12 M26 rockets, and each battery could fire 108 rockets in a matter of minutes. As the platoon reached the colored tape marking the lane for them to follow, Corporal Halley asked in a low whisper, "Gunny, do you hear music, or am I imagining things?" "Halley, if we were back stateside, I would ask if you were smoking dope again, but as we're here at this time and place, I know you're not doing that. What you're hearing, young man, if you listen closely, is our song, the U.S. Marine Corps hymn. It's being played on loudspeakers by the psychological units. Scare the crap out of the Iraqis. They know we're coming. Gunny said. As they approached the North and South Gudair oil fields, Gunny halted the platoon. Okay, remember, stay out of any low spots. There is H2S gas in the low spots due to the burning oil rigs, and your MOP suits won't protect you from that, so stay out of them and any bunkers. Got it? A resounding, yes, Gunny, could be heard. All right, here we go. Gunny proceeded to lead the platoon forward. As he did, they came under direct and indirect fire from an Iraqi position that was between the minefields. The platoon engaged, at least until they heard the sound of diesel engines and rolling tracks. Out of the morning rain, an armored vehicle appeared. It was the lead element for Task Force Breach Alpha. Task Force Breach Alpha was a special combat engineer unit consisting of 18 amphibious assault vehicles, AAVs, with the M154 mine-clearing line charges, M60A1 dozer tanks, M60A1 track-width mine plows, M60A1 tanks with mine rakes, and 20 AAVs with engineer squads and an assortment of other vehicles to clear the way through the minefields. First up were the vehicles with the M154 mine-clearing line charges. "Gunny, what the hell is that?" one of the newbies asked. "Watch and learn," was Gunny's response. As the first vehicle moved up, they noticed off the rear top of the AAV was some sort of launcher. The twin machine guns were hosing the Iraqi position, forcing the Iraqi soldiers to keep down. Suddenly, a rocket launched off the back of the AAV, trailing what appeared to be a rope behind it. It flew out about 100 meters. "Well, that's pretty damn worthless," the young newbie said. "The damn thing never exploded. What good is it?" he asked, as he started to rise up. Just then, a huge explosion went off in front of the AAV, and the concussion wave shoved the youngster to the ground. "What the fuck?" the young Marine yelled. "That, my friend, is called a mine-clearing line charge, or MICLIC, to you. It just cleared a 100 by 8 meter path through that minefield, and now he's going to fire 2 more charges to make it a bit wider, I suspect. He'll be followed by those M60 tanks with rollers and plows to clear out any mines that didn't go off. Watch and learn," Gunny instructed. The platoon held their position as Task Force Breach Alpha performed its assignment. At 0740, the platoon and 1st Battalion, 6th Marines, were through the minefield. Chapter 56. Omens. 26 May 1991. Pentagon, Washington, D.C. Satellite imagery had been flowing into the basement office all night. Paige Harrison had to be told to go home and get some sleep and come back in the morning to relieve Bob Daly, who would work the all-night shift. She would get the day shift, and Bob would bring her and Cliff up to speed at the shift change brief. Last night was something else. As you scroll through the photos, you can see just how fast this thing is moving. Over here on the west, the 2 divisions have set up a screen line from Saudi to the Euphrates River. The 101st put in 1 FOB and has pushed to the Euphrates with another FOB blocking the highway. Their attack helicopters are destroying anything that moves on that road. The 24th linked up with the 101st and has turned east now, Bob pointed out as photos streamed across the computer screen. "How much resistance are they meeting?" Paige asked. "Out here in the west, it doesn't appear to be much. Got to the Euphrates with very little resistance, to be truthful. Now, in the 7th Corps sector, they did meet some resistance, as you can see in this photo. This is the 1st Infantry Division, and you can see he blew through 2 Iraqi divisions with some fighting along this berm and tank ditch that the Iraqis have been building since the start of hostilities last year. Over on the right flank of the 1st Infantry is the 1st Cav, and they shot through a gap in the Iraqi defense with the 1st British right behind them. It appears that the 1st Cav widened the gap and let the 1st British punch through and nail this tank division that's sitting here. Took the Brits all day, but it appears that they've pretty well destroyed that division. The Brits are turning to the east now," Daly summarized. "Okay, what about the Arab forces on our side?" Cliff asked. Joint Forces Command North has the 2 Egyptian divisions and the Saudi Task Force. They, I understand, are under the command of the Egyptian Corps, which is under Joint Forces Command North. They've hardly moved. In fact, they're still sitting on the border and have barely moved across. Something is amiss here, I think, Daly indicted, pointing at the computer screen. Page quickly added, "You know, if the first British and the Egyptians drive eastward, they're liable to cut off all these units that are south of Kuwait City. Their eastward movement is going to place them on top of Mitla Ridge and block everything attempting to get back to Iraq." "You're probably right, and I think the Iraqis see that too." "Look here," Bob said, pointing at another picture. "These units in front of the Marines and the Arab forces along the coast are already starting to fall back. This road going up to Mitla Ridge is already packed with vehicles moving north, all kinds of vehicles. I don't think they're reorienting to oppose the threat from the west. I believe they're attempting to withdraw completely," Bob said, zooming the picture in for a close-up. The clarity surprised everyone. "Well, let's write up our analysis and get it upstairs to the Deputy SecDef. He may want to get it to Schwarzkopf and the President. What are we seeing with the Iraqi Air Force?" Cliff asked. We're seeing several of their frontline jets sitting on runways in Iran," Bob said with a chuckle. "What? You're shitting me, aren't you?" Cliff blurted out. "I shit you not," Bob announced, as he scrolled through more photos. Finally, he found what he was looking for. "See, those aircraft at the Tehran airport have Iraqi markings, and there's some of the fighters in their inventory. Here's another of one of the transport planes unloading what looks like families. I think the pilots have had enough of the U.S. Air Force and are bugging out. I tell you, Cliff, I think the whole Iraqi military force is falling apart, and quickly," Bob observed. "Paige, I want you to look this stuff over and confirm what Bob has said. No offense, Bob." "None taken. I understand we want to be doubly sure before we start raising flags," Bob acknowledged. "Paige, if you need anything, please just call me and I'll come back in." "I hope I don't have to do that. I suggest that we do the same on shift change tonight and have you review my write-up, okay?" Paige offered. "Sure thing," Bob said as he stood to head home for some sleep. Turning back, he added, "You know, we could be looking at the beginning of the end. Peace in the Middle East. Boy, that would be nice for once." Chapter 57. Joint Force Command North. 27th May 1991. Day 2. 7 Corps, HQ, Saudi Arabia. "Sir, we have a problem," Colonel Cherry said. Cherry was the Assistant Operations Officer, G3 for 7 Corps, and like General Franks, he had lost a lower leg in Vietnam. But it didn't slow him or General Franks down one bit. "So what's the problem?" Franks asked. "The forces under Joint Forces Command North haven't crossed the border. Our right flank is exposed," Cherry explained. "What? You're joking, right? That's a bad joke," Franks said. "Sir, I wish I was. I spoke with both the 1st Cav and 1st British, and they've confirmed it. Seems that the Egyptian division commanders are reluctant to move Arab forces against Arab forces," Cherry replied. "I spoke with the G3 of Joint Forces Command North, and he said General Smith is hopping mad." "Call Arsent and see if they've talked to Marine Central Command and are getting the same info. Get back to me when you've spoken to them," Franks directed. Cherry left and came back an hour later. "Sir, I spoke to the ops people at Marine Central. They're getting the same report from the 2nd Marine Division. The Arabs from Joint Forces Command North have not moved into Kuwait," Cherry said, hoping that Franks wouldn't shoot the messenger. "We have to get this resolved and fast. Our flank is wide open for a counterattack in this case. Have 1st Cav secure our flank until we get this resolved. Let me get General Yosak and General Smith on the phone and talk to them about getting those forces to move." "Joe, what's the deal with the Arab forces? They're not moving. My right flank is exposed to a counterattack," Franks said, as calm as ever. He seldom got excited. It just wasn't in his personality. Some generals were screamers, but not him. "Frank, I'm aware of the situation. Boomer and Smith have been talking to me, and I've talked to the Egyptian commanders personally. Seems those divisions had no problem fighting up to the Kuwait border, because the Iraqis were surrendering rather than fight. But now he feels that they will fight, and they are reluctant to move their forces against their Arab brothers, Yosuk explained, frustration evident in his voice at the situation. Well, what are we going to do about it? He has, 4 divisions sitting in front of him plus a mech division? And right now there is no pressure on any of them, Franks pointed out. For right now you're going to have to protect your flank as best you can, Yosuk said. Ivan has the 50th Armored moving, but he can't get the Egyptians off their asses to fight right now. There was a sigh before Franks responded. I get it. I'm doing what I can to protect that flank, but these so-called Arab allies are leaving my ass to flap in the wind. The 1st Cav opened the 1st defense belt, and the Brits passed through and are beating up the Iraqi 12th Armored Division. It appears they have only T-55 tanks. They're no match for the chieftains. He'll turn east then, with the 1st Cav covering the flank, and together they'll hit the Tawakalna Division. But we need to get the Egyptians off their asses. I agree. Let me talk to Norm and see what he can do. I'll get back to you, Yosuk said and hung up, turning to an aide. Get General Schwarzkopf on the line. I know. My guys have been watching the satellite feed and have told me. Bilal doesn't want to move or can't get his people to move because he feels that it's not right for Arabs to be fighting Arabs in Kuwait. I asked him what the hell the difference was in the UAE and Saudi, but not Kuwait. His answer? Kuwait is a province of Iraq, Schwarzkopf explained. Isn't there something we can do to get him moving? This could be a major problem for both Marine Central and 7th Corps, Yosuk pointed out. Don't you think I know that? Norm said, and then continued. Sorry, but this just really pisses me off. They should have raised this flag before we ever got this far. I have a call into Baker at State to talk to Mubarak, and quick. I'll get back to you after I hear from him. Okay, but I hope this doesn't take long. Thanks, Yosuk said, and placed the phone back in the cradle. Mr. Secretary, is Mubarak going to get them moving? Schwarzkopf asked when Baker came on the phone. Mr. Baker sighed as he tried to explain to the general in charge of all Allied forces. I spoke with him, General, and he's reluctant to order General Bilal, who is their overall commander, to move aggressively. Seems that even though he was in support of our actions and of ejecting the Iraqis out of the UAE and Saudi, he's reluctant to go into Iraq proper. Seems you've been too successful in his eyes, and he fears you'll overrun Kuwait so fast that the door will be open to go into Iraq and topple Saddam. Sir, at this point my mission is to eject Iraqi forces out of Kuwait and sufficiently destroy the Iraqi army so it doesn't pose a threat in the future. I have U.S. forces moving in Iraq, and the Egyptians won't cross into Iraq. Tell him that, and maybe he can get them back on the move, Norm said. You can assure me that the Egyptian forces won't venture into Iraq once Kuwait is liberated? Baker questioned. Yes, sir. I promise the Egyptians will not put one tank track in Iraq. They'll be fortunate if their equipment doesn't fall apart just trying to get to Kuwait City. All right, General. I'll go back to him and give him assurances to that fact. Please don't make me go back with my hat in my hand, rendering an apology, Baker said. He was half joking, but Schwarzkopf got the message. Chapter 58. Continue the attack. 28 May 1991. Day 3. Iraq, Kuwait. All right, listen up, Lieutenant Colonel Altamir said to his company commanders, who had gathered around his tank. Iron Mike, as he was called behind his back, had spread out his map. Here's what we got today. As he spoke, he pointed to the map. We're here, according to the GPS. We're going to move on the left flank of the brigade and take this airfield at Talil. On the north side of the airfield is where the garrison is located, along with the flight crews and hangars. To the north of the airfield, in this area, is a bioweapons lab. The lead scientist is a woman. Tell the troops to detain all women, but not to remove any veils. We have female MPs that will do that. We suspect that in this grove of trees, there are some Iraqi aircraft hidden under camouflage netting. Our job is to secure these hangars on the northwest side, and this garrison area on the north side of this major street. Pascal and 118 Armor will take that area, so we want to be careful with firing into that area. We'll attack from the south to the north abreast, which should minimize the chances of us potentially shooting at each other. Poggy, your company will be on the right flank and maintain contact with Pascal's left company. We're moving about 60 miles northeast to get to Talil. Any questions? No, sir. Do we know which company that will be? Poggy asked. The three will get that info for you before we move out, Altamir replied. Sever, I want you and Alpha Company to secure these hangars on the left. Billings, you and Bravo Company take these buildings between Poggy and Sever. Gill, you and Charlie Company are reserve and follow Billings. If there are no questions, let's mount up and get ready to move out. One question, sir, Poggy asked. What are the other brigades doing? Are they going to be on the airfield as well? No, while we're taking out this airfield at Talil, they're going to bypass and head for this airfield at Jalaba. Division doesn't expect much here at Talil, but the 49th Iraqi Division has positioned itself at Jalaba and been reconstituted with personnel and equipment. This will position the 24th as the northernmost of the forces and put the Euphrates River on our left flank. Any other questions? Any idea what 7 Corps is doing? I'd hate to run into those guys in the dark and start shooting each other, Poggy said. They're well east of us, and the 2nd ACR is in the lead, screening their front. We shouldn't have to worry about them. Now let's get rolling. Jesus, get me through this night. Specialist Ramos, the driver in Lieutenant Bagel's tank, prayed as another round left the main gun. Each time he heard a ping off the side of the tank, he flinched. He had been the driver since the start of hostilities, but nothing was as intense as this. The Iraqi 47th and 49th Divisions were dug in on favorable terrain and putting up a fight. Fortunately, the T-55 tanks they were employing didn't have the range or accuracy or thermal sights of the M1 Abrams tanks. Lieutenant, we've gone through half our Sabbat rounds, Specialist Anderson said over the intercom system. The chattering from the 50 cal machine gun almost drowned his voice out. We're just going to have to make every round count. Tank, 2 o'clock, Bagel called out. Identified, responded Staff Sergeant Adams, slaving the main gun onto the target. Up, replied Anderson. Fire, commanded Bagel, and the explosion for the fired round rocked the tank rearward as the sabot round exited the main gun. In less than a second, the turret of an Iraqi tank could be seen tumbling in the air. Lieutenant, I'm seeing white flags. I think maybe these guys have had enough. It's been, 4 hours since this dance started? Staff Sergeant Adams asked. Yeah, and I've had enough. Thank God we didn't lose a single vehicle in the platoon. Or anyone killed. I cannot understand how lopsided this war has been. Are we that good? Or are they that bad that we're rolling over them? Sir, I think it's a combination of both, Adams replied in a weary voice. He was tired, as they all were, and thirsty. Fire! The battery of 5 115mm self-propelled howitzers roared, sending 5 HE rounds across the battlefield to an awaiting Iraqi artillery battery of the 26th Infantry Division. The 1st Infantry Division had been engaging the 26th all morning and was closing in on their final units. The AN-TPQ-37 Firefinder weapon locating system was picking up incoming rounds from Iraqi artillery, plotting the location of origin and feeding that information to the battery fire direction centers, where the information would be plotted and the firing data sent to the battery's guns. Sir, we're getting indications that the Iraqi batteries are withdrawing and moving out of range for our guns, Captain Dade said. All right, I'll get Devarty on the horn and see about displacing to a new firing location. We need to be moving closer to the maneuver forces to keep the Iraqis off their back. While we displace, Devarty can have the MLRS boys hit these targets. Hell, they have the range. We should be concentrating on supporting the maneuver forces and not this deep battle shit. We're direct support to 1st Brigade. Any other missions come down that aren't 1st Brigade, send them back. Priority of fire is 1st Brigade, understood? Not deep battle and general support for division. Anyone gives you shit about that, you tell them to call me, Lieutenant Colonel Dan Morgan said, chewing on his cigar, which he still hadn't lit yet. "According to GPS, we're due to turn east at this point," Captain Triplett said, sweat dripping onto his map from under his Kevlar helmet. Triplett had been with the 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment for a year, commanding E Troop 2nd Squadron, consisting of 100 soldiers and 12 M3 Cav fighting vehicles. 9 M1 Abrams tanks from the troop followed behind the M3 Cav fighting vehicles. He was dog-ass tired, having been on the move all night identifying and engaging Iraqi positions. His path was marked with burning vehicles, Iraqi bodies, and destroyed bunkers. "Where do we head from here, Captain?" First Sergeant Burns asked, pulling his map out to compare notes. "From here, we're heading southeast towards this highway, coming over this ridge, Mitla Ridge. Our limit of advance for tonight is this 73 north-south grid line, named Phase Line 73 Easting. We're to clear away the Iraqi security forces, conduct a passage of lines with the first ID, and not become decisively engaged." "I do like that term, not decisively engaged," Triplett pointed out with a smile. "How are the troops holding up?" "They're doing good, sir. A few guys took some light wounds, but nothing to send them back to the rear. None want to go back to the rear either. We patched them up and they're good to go. I got ammo redistributed, and chow, so they're happy. Fuel status is good for another couple 100 miles. We did pick up a few prisoners," First Sergeant Burns indicated. "How many?" Triplett asked. "About 200. "Shit, what the?" Triplett asked. "No worry, Captain. We already turned them over to the EPW collection point and they're out of our hair. Hell, there must be a couple thousand located at that place. Even got a corps commander from the 7 Iraqi Corps. He was strutting like a frickin' peacock until a lieutenant informed him that he was a prisoner just like the rest of them ragheads," Burns said. "Don't bet on it. His ass will be shipped off to Arsent before the sun reaches its apex today," Triplett said and paused for a minute. "Okay, let's mount up and get moving. We have a ways to go before we sleep." The 18th Iraqi Armored Brigade had been expecting an attack by the Americans from the south and east. Their positions reflected this line of thought, and were well dug in preparation for destroying the American attack. Sector of fires had been marked. Artillery target reference points had been passed to the supporting artillery, along with minefields laid to channel the Americans into kill zones. As Colonel Al-Jaziri studied his map in his command bunker, he began to hear the sound of incoming artillery. "That sounds like it's to the west of our positions." "Captain Darwish, see who is shooting to the west of us," Al-Jaziri told a young captain, a staff officer who was on a radio. "Sir," the captain responded with some level of excitement in his voice. "Division is on the radio. The Americans are attacking from the west and not the south or east. Division wants us to reorient our defense. The 50th Brigade is establishing a screen line along the 60th north-south grid line to give us time to reposition." "What?" Al-Jaziri almost screamed. "Get the battalions on the radio. We need to reposition everyone, and right now," he ordered. Turning to another staff officer, he said, "Get the artillery commander and tell him to get over here immediately so we can readjust our target reference points." To Captain Darwish, he said, "Have the 1st Battalion pull out of his current position and move to the west 5 kilometers and orient his defense around these buildings on the 69 Easting north-south line. Have 2nd Battalion move to this location at 73 Easting and take up positions facing west. Have 3rd Battalion follow 2nd Battalion." "Are you seeing this in the thermal sight?" Lieutenant Bowling asked his gunner in their M1 Abrams tank. Sand was blowing, obscuring their normal vision. Lieutenant Bowling was the platoon leader for a tank platoon in E Troop. "Eagle 1-1, Eagle 6, Captain Triplett called. "Eagle 6, Eagle 1-1, Lieutenant Bowling responded. "Eagle 1-1, I want you to move up on line. We're picking up numerous targets. I suspect we're going to be decisively engaged. How copy?" "Eagle 6, roger. On the move now," Lieutenant Bowling stated, and gave the order to move out to his driver as well as the rest of his platoon. It was 15:30 hours, he noted on his watch, and jotted down in a small diary he was keeping. "Sir, I ain't ever seen this many targets in my life and all coming at us, Staff Sergeant Crandall indicated. What's the range estimate? Bowling asked. Sir, they're at 3,000 meters. Some are masked in buildings and alongside the buildings, Crandall indicated. Bowling switched his intercom to the TroopNet frequency. Eagle 6, Eagle 1-1, tanks and vehicles at 2,500 meters. Eagle 1-1, roger. All Eagle elements, engage enemy positions in the cluster of buildings. Eagle 2-1, take the right flank. Eagle 3-1, maneuver left flank. Both platoon leaders acknowledged and commenced maneuvering against the Iraqi position in the small cluster of buildings. As his vehicle lurched forward, Crandall depressed his trigger, and the first round streaked across the night sky in less than a second, resulting in an Iraqi tank exploding. Now the Battle of 73 Easting was on. Colonel, 2nd Battalion reports that the Americans are engaging, but they are beyond the effective range of his guns. The 2nd Battalion reports he can barely see the Americans through the dust, Captain Darwish exclaimed. Tell them to remain hidden until the Americans are within 2,000 meters. Then engage, Colonel Al-Jaziri ordered. Sir, the Americans are seeing them at 2,500 meters and hitting them. They report they have lost 20 tanks and 15 BMPs. He is asking to withdraw before his battalion is destroyed, Darwish almost pleaded. Where is his artillery support? The colonel shouted, turning to Captain Farouk, the artillery fire support officer. Sir, the batteries are under attack from rocket artillery and are attempting to pull back. They have not been able to carry out any fire missions in support of the brigade, Farouk reported, almost ashamed of the artillery. All Eagle elements, let's move out, Captain Triplett ordered, leaving the cluster of smoldering buildings behind, along with a small group of prisoners that were stripped of their weapons and told to just sit and wait. As the troop moved eastward, it came on a low rise. The troop was traveling M3s abreast with the M1 platoons following. As they crested the low rise, the master gunner screamed, "Shit, sir! Tank front 500 meters, engaging!" He engaged with a Tau missile and his Bushmaster chain gun. Triplett didn't have time to give an order when every M3 opened fire on the surprised Iraq Tank Company. Immediately, Iraqi tanks began to explode as Tau missiles slammed into exposed turrets. 8 Iraqi tanks were burning when the M1 Abrams tanks crested the hill and destroyed the remaining tanks. Not wanting to be a target for Iraqi artillery, Triplett gave the order to move out and continued his advance past the 73 Easting phase line. Eagle 1-1, Eagle 6. Eagle 6, 1-1. 1-1, move north and regain contact with Gulf Troop. Roger, moving north. 1-1 out. Triplett continued to move the remainder of the troop east, probing for the main defense of the Iraqi forces. Then all hell broke loose. Eagle 6, 1-1, 13, I say again, 13 Tango 7-2, engaging now. 1-1 passed the coordinates. Crap, Triplett thought, knowing full well that 2 Cav vehicles were no match for 13 T-72 tanks. The Tau was a good weapon, but took time to load. The scouts were outgunned. Eagle 6, Iron 6, another troop commander was calling. Go, Iron 6, Triplett transmitted. Eagle 6, I have Eagle 1-1 in sight and his target. We're moving to engage, Iron 6 said, only to be interrupted by another troop's commander. Iron 6, I'm coming up on your east side and will engage as well, Killer 6 said without his call sign, but everyone recognized the voice. Killer 6, Ghost 6, I'll cover your flank overlooking this north-south wadi. How copy? Ghost 6, I have good copy. When we take care of this, I'll join you. Killer 6 out. Colonel Al-Jaziri, the Americans have reached the 73 north-south phase line with their reconnaissance elements, Captain Darwish said, as he plotted the position on the map. Contact 3rd Battalion and have him attack. His T-72s will smash this attack. Contact the brigade from the 12th Armored Division on our flank and ask him to commit one of his battalions as well. We will coordinate the attack. He only has T-55. but it will help relieve pressure on our tanks." "Holy crap!" Sergeant First Class Harrison said, as he saw the first of what appeared to be 20 T-72 tanks drop down into the wadi his tank was overlooking. "Eagle 3-1 elements, engage," Harrison heard over the radio. He didn't need to be told, and immediately gave the command to fire. The gunner identified a target, the loader indicated the round was ready, and the gun roared. This would keep up for the next 6 hours, and the Battle of Easting would become one of the largest tank battles since World War II. Chapter 59. The end is near. 29 May, 1991. Day 4, Mitla Ridge. 3, 2, 1. And the director shot a finger at Arthur Kent. "I am standing with elements of the 1st Infantry Division overlooking the main highway from Kuwait City to Basra, Iraq. The highway is a 2-lane paved road and the only paved road in this region. Right now, it is a highway of death. Iraqi vehicles of every kind, tanks and armored personnel carriers, are attempting to move up this road to escape the American advance. They are under constant artillery bombardment and attacks from American jets and attack helicopters. It appears that the entire Iraqi army is attempting to flee before the American forces that have launched this attack into Kuwait only 96 hours ago. The speed of the American advance has destroyed many Iraqi divisions and overwhelmed the Iraqi military leadership. Some civilian cars and buses may be seen, but they are occupied by Iraqi soldiers. The attack helicopters are avoiding striking them, but the artillery and jets cannot make that distinction. This is Arthur Kent reporting from Kuwait. As Arthur Kent reported, the camera scanned the devastation along the road from its vantage point, showing burned-out vehicles scattered all over the road and to the side. The bodies of those trapped in the vehicles were clearly visible as well. It was obvious that no one was escaping this trap that the Americans had closed. In the Oval Office, the president watched the pictures being broadcast across the nightly news. "Mr. President, Mr. Baker, Mr. Cheney, Mr. Sununu, and General Powell are here to see you," the intercom announced. "Send them in," the president said. "Now what shitstorm is this going to bring?" he thought when the 4 walked in. "Mr. President, have you seen—" Cheney started, referring to the events playing out on the television. "Yes, I have, and so has the whole world." "So what have you got?" the president asked. "Sir, we're getting a lot of calls from world leaders about this highway of death. Many are expressing the feeling that we have decisively defeated the Iraqi army and driven them out of Kuwait, and the fighting should stop. Saddam has made overtures to the UN that he will leave Kuwait and not return," Baker said. "Not good enough. I want his head on a platter. He's an international environmental terrorist, for God's sake. He's butchered his own people with chemical weapons. He invaded 3 countries and started a war with Iran and did it all in 10 years. The man has to go," the president insisted. "Mr. President, the Turks have come up very loud on this matter. If we invade and remove Saddam, they will close our bases, and they intend to come to his aid, or at least partially occupy northern Iraq. They feel strongly that his removal will have a destabilizing impact on the region, and especially for them with the Kurds. The Iranians have let it be known they feel the same as the Turks, as they have a Kurdish problem as well," Baker went on to say. The president glanced at Cheney and Baker, both with daggers. "Well, Colin, what's your opinion on this?" the president asked. "Mr. President," Powell began, "at a minimum, a ceasefire should be imposed to allow the Iraqis to flee out of Kuwait and for CENTCOM to sort itself out. We have almost 10 divisions all packed into an area the size of Rhode Island and mixed together. To continue an attack, it will take some time to unscramble the forces and reposition them. Add in resupplying the units and getting the oil fires under control, and it's all going to take time. Time that could be used to bring Saddam to the peace table and an honorable surrender for the Iraqi army. John, what do you think?" Sununu leaned forward in his chair as he responded. Mr. President, I believe that what General Powell just offered is the best course of action. Declare a ceasefire and put the ball in Saddam's court. The world will see that we're offering an olive branch, and he can take it or have us come knocking on his door. The president sat staring at the 4 advisors standing before his desk. I have to make the final decision on this. Collectively, they've never given me bad advice. I know in my heart, if I let Saddam off the hook now, we're just going to have to go back there in 5 or 10 years and do this all over again. I can see that, but the world cannot. And that's who we have to appease at this point. Damn it, I don't like this one bit. All right, issue a ceasefire order for 0800 tomorrow morning Kuwait time and make it public, so the whole damn world knows we've issued it. But also let it be known that if one damn artillery shell, one damn tank round, one anti-aircraft missile is fired, we're marching right into Baghdad. Jim, get a list of demands for Schwarzkopf to present to the Iraqi delegation. Schwarzkopf will handle all the negotiations. I'm not going to lower the prestige of the United States by formally meeting with Saddam. This is a surrender, not a peace treaty. Sergeant Knighty, Specialist Holmes, and Specialist Rhodes all sat in their respective foxholes as the sun rose. They had air assaulted into another flat spot in the desert to establish another refuel Tarchot rearm point for the attack helicopters of the 101st. Their company, Company A, 3rd Battalion, 327th Infantry, had seen some action when taking Objective Cobra, but things had been quiet on this insertion. In fact, they questioned why they had even come here, as it appeared from the abandoned U.S. vehicles that a heavy force had already gone through this area the night before. Okay, what now? Needy said, sipping his morning coffee. It looks like we sit on our ass until we move again. Maybe Sergeant Seabrook knows something, Holmes said, as he noticed the platoon sergeant approaching. Sergeant First Class Seabrook had the respect of these guys. A large, not fat, black man, he was soft-spoken and only seemed to speak when necessary. Hey, Sergeant Seabrook, what we doing now and how long are we going to be here? Rhodes asked. Why? You got someplace to be and something else to do, Rhodes? Seabrook asked. He didn't look happy. Just curious is all, Rhodes responded, picking up on the negative vibes that Seabrook was sending out. Hey, what's the matter, Sergeant? Needy asked. I'll tell you what the matter is. Effective at 800 hours today, a ceasefire goes into effect. We can't shoot at them, and they can't shoot at us. Now the politicians and generals get involved, and we wait, Seabrook said with some disgust. You're shitting us, right? Specialist Mozzie said, walking up to the group. I shit you not. On top of that, the colonel says we're pulling out of here later today and flying back to Cobra. And there we'll wait for however long it takes for the brass to get a formal ceasefire signed and the Iraqis out of Kuwait. The colonel is pissed, Seabrook added. Damn, he should be, Knighty said. The old man knows that we're going to be coming right back here in 5-10 years and have to do this all over again. Shit, we have the army in place to do the job and finish it right now, Nitty concluded in disgust. For a few moments, no one said anything. Standing, Needy threw the last of his coffee into the desert and began to walk away. Over his shoulder, he said, Like in Korea, Vietnam, and now here, the damn politicians have sold us out again. We will never win another war because of them. This has been Desert Storm, Book 3 of the Crisis in the Desert series, by Matt Jackson and James Rosone. See 2021, James Rosone and Matt Jackson. Published in conjunction with Frontline Publishing, Incorporated, Production, 11labs.io, 2025.
Thank you for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you'll never miss another video.
In the meantime, we have plenty of reading material to keep you busy. You can find it all on our website, frontlinepublishinginc.com.